Hey Dee, are you ready for January to end?
Yeah, it's almost time to see what the old groundhog has to say.
Well, do you have groundhogs in Oklahoma, or would you be watching for an armadillo to show up and tell you about spring?
Armadillos are more about telling you about late summer, but if I see one this spring, I'll just.
Yeah, before you say something you're going to regret or that I have to clip out of here, why don't you get us started on this episode?
She's making it sound like I'm the hothead here. Good idea. Welcome to the Garden Angelus, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. You guys know who I am. I am Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, and I garden about an acre and a half out of 7.5 acres way out in the country.
And I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
We call ourselves Garden Angelists because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening and we want you to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Hello, Dee.
Good morning, Carol. We got kind of a late start this morning because of me. And
And
then
me?
your computer wouldn't work. And it was like, these are the joys of podcasting. But let's go to the garden. How is your garden?
Dee, I have made the Taj Mahal for my winter sown seedlings.
Yes.
I think I will write a blog post about it, but I had a reader of my weekly newsletter give me this idea, and then I kind of morphed on it a little bit. And so, anyway, so I got seeds sown for delphiniums, foxgloves, sweet williams, Iceland poppies, and hollyhocks. And then I kind of went on a little scavenger hunt, and I remembered I had some seeds in the refrigerator, and then I have more seeds to winter sow. And I thought I made this contraption pretty big to put all my winter sown seedlings in. Dee,
Yes.
I think I'm going to run out of room. How about your garden?
I mean, it looked pretty big, but I also thought you were going to run out of room. You need another box, as it were. So,
Yeah,
see, it could be the mirror of the Taj Mahal, the
right.
mirror garden,
We
right?
might as well tell people that she suggested taking an old storage container with some depth to it that's clear with a clear lid, and then you
Right.
put your seedlings in pots down in that and put the lid on there. So I have a bunch of plastic pots, don't we all? Rounded those up and then went scouring for a container, and none of them had a clear lid. And then I had the brilliant idea that the lid could be on the bottom and the container on top. So I took this old wrapping paper container that's just been sitting there like a third full for years. And I flipped it over and I showed you pictures where I drilled holes to get the water in there and put holes in the lid for drainage. And it looks pretty, I'm going to say it looks pretty spectacular, Dee.
I'm pretty sad that I got rid of all of my containers like that. I gave them away because it is a good idea for winter sowing because you get the
Yes.
sunlight in the top and on the sides, and you don't really need it on the bottom anyway. So,
Exactly. And so
there you go.
I will see. I'm going to see how much I can get into this one because I don't want to go too overboard and have my entire back patio covered with storage containers flipped upside down. So anyway,
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever grown Icelandic poppies before?
I have not.
Okay, I'll be interested to see how they do. They're darn near impossible in Oklahoma, but I can enjoy them from afar. And if yours are successful, great. That'd be awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I know because, well, I know that in colder climates they do okay because Matt Mattis has grown them. So
Yeah, we'll see. I kind of wish I'd gotten things out there earlier, but
yeah,
it was so cold 2 weeks ago that I still think, even though today, I mean, it's an astounding, I think it's 52 degrees. It's what my watch says, but sometimes it's not caught up with the actual weather. But it's like we know it's going to get cold again, so I'm not worried about do I have
right.
enough cold on those things. But anyway, be that
Just to
as
give
it may,
people
it's
an
49.
idea, it's 47 here. So very similar at the moment, right?
Right.
So you want to know what I did?
Absolutely.
Anybody who follows me on Instagram knows that I moved the pink muhly grass to its new home, and it's now going to front the back garden on either side of the American Wisteria arbor. And I've done a couple of Instagram reels on it. And I also did an ASMR little thing on my stories this morning, which won't, they'll be part of a reel. So you guys will see it when this airs. And then I also kept my indoor plants and the seedlings alive in the greenhouse, which this time of year is some work. For one thing, we can't open the vents in my greenhouse right now, and my son is supposed to come over on Saturday. We're recording this on Friday, and he's going to help us replace the batteries. I ran and bought the batteries, or Bill did. But it is hard for Bill with his back surgery stuff and his walker to climb up on the stool to get up where the batteries are. And we were like, please don't do that again.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
dumb. And then let's see. So it's hot in there and then it's cold and it's hot. It's kind of hot actually. We hired a plumbing company to come hook up our Generac and they're almost finished. So that's been quite the ordeal. Bill, because Bill has always been able to do everything he wants to do and is very, very handy, he hates paying other people to do things. And that you can just go and get a Generac and they have their own plumbing company and they'll do it all for you.
Right.
No, no, not my. And please don't, I'm not ragging on Bill. This is just the way it is. He bought the Generac separately. Generac shipped it directly. It had the wrong tag on the outside, so we thought we had the wrong size. Turns out the inside was the right size. They just slapped the wrong tag on it. Then it needed to be plumbed, which meant digging a trench through the yard. So right now we have a giant trench through the yard, which we would have had anyway. But
Right.
but do you get what I'm saying? Like we could have had it all done by one company, but Bill was trying to save money. His friend was going to do it for us, the plumbing part. He never did. So we had to hire a plumbing company and it's going to get done, but it's been quite the ordeal. And yesterday, Megan or Claire, those are two of our children, one of them asked me, so did this save money? And I turned around to Bill and I said, Bill, I think it was Megan. I said, Megan wants to know if this saved money. And he goes, ha ha ha. So I guess it did not save money. Now, let me just say, in Bill's defense, he has many, many times saved us money, like so many times. So it's just different when you can't do it all like you used to do.
Right. Right. And you've got the
But
propane running to your greenhouse now, so you can heat with propane in there.
well, I've always heated with propane, but we brought down 100-gallon propane bottles and then we would take them up every year. Now it'll just be one propane unit. It'll heat both the greenhouse and it will heat the other two. Because I have two stages of heat. I have electric and propane, both.
Right. Right.
Because
Right.
sometimes your electricity goes out and sometimes you run out of propane. Things happen. So we try to have backups, but nothing's as easy as you want it to be. And I'll just say this at my age right now, if I had it to do over again, I would put a sunroom on the back of on one side of my great room
Uh-huh.
instead of having a greenhouse. I've said it, it's out there. That's really how I feel about it because I could still start seeds in there. I could enjoy it all winter. It could be a screened in porch in the summer. It
Yeah.
would overlook the garden. And there's still some discussion about doing that because the other day Bill said, do you want that? And I go, yeah, but that doesn't really solve my problem because I've still got a greenhouse. And I now hear all of our listeners going, but wait, a greenhouse is the dream. It is the dream, but it's a lot of work.
It can also be the nightmare and
Yeah,
the
it can.
expense.
It's very
Yeah.
expensive. I'm just not going to lie. Okay, let's keep moving on. What else? We want to play favorites now, right?
We do. My favorite this week is, remember I dug up some lily of the valley pips before we had the big snow. I guess that
Yes, I
was
do.
Sunday the 5th.
January something. Yeah.
Yeah, January the 5th. And because it started snowing that day. So they've just been sitting there and finally they're starting to show some green and starting to do something. So that is my favorite this week. I want to cheer them on.
I'm cheering with you because I love Lily of the Valley pips. I think they smell exquisite. And now that we have it in our garden, we can bring it inside. I did not do this year because I was in the middle of Bill in surgery right then.
Right,
So I did
right,
not do
right.
it. Okay, so my favorite, and I don't know why, but my nose is itching terribly. Doesn't that mean someone's coming to visit you or?
I think, yes, if your ear itches, it means somebody's talking about you. I
It
knew
doesn't
that.
itch. My nose
Okay.
itches. All right. So maybe the little onions and shallot seedlings that I started from seed back in
Uh-huh.
December, they are up and they are really strong little creatures without much help because, like I said, the greenhouse has been all over the place heat wise. And one time I went out there and they were all like lying on the ground looking
Yeah.
kind of sad because they got too hot and
Yeah.
it
They're
was
like,
also too dry. And so I watered them and they popped right back up. Bless their little
excellent.
hearts.
Excellent.
Okay, I eliminated our question of the week. Do you have a
Well,
question of the week?
we did have another question of the week. We had a question because somebody had purchased a Christmas rose, a hellebore, and they said
Yes.
it formed seeds. And did they think the seeds were viable? And
Yes.
I would say there's only one way to find out.
And I'm going to say probably so, because hellebores are notoriously promiscuous and they're great seed makers, great baby makers. Now, those babies will not come back true to the parent. That's what you need
No.
to know about hellebores.
Right.
Because a lot of hellebores that are sold in grocery stores and various places are tissue cultured, frankly, because they want them to come back true.
Right.
And so, I have a lot of hellebore seedlings that come back every year of both Helleborus niger and Helleborus hybridus, which is the Lenten rose. And they don't come back exactly true, but sometimes it's fun to see what you get.
Yes. And a very important point, though, is that most hellebores, I'm assuming even the ones, especially the ones that were grown from the grocery store, they do need to be cold stratification. So they have to
Chilled
have a period of cold before they will germinate. And so, you might throw them in the refrigerator and
first. Yeah,
yeah, give them 4 to 6 weeks and then toss them out there. I have seedlings that come up all over the place, and
me
it,
too.
so I just transplant them around, and what comes up comes up. I'm not a big connoisseur, as they say.
And I also weed them out because sometimes I don't want hellebores in certain places. So, and I get so many. So, you want to do the quote?
I'm going to do the quote, and this is by Edith Wharton. I believe I know the only cure, which is to make one's center of life inside of oneself, not selfishly or excludingly, but with a kind of unassailable serenity, to decorate one's inner house so richly that one is content there, glad to welcome anyone who wants to come and stay, but happy all the same when one is inevitably alone.
So, that quote could have also been Emily. It could have been Emily Dickinson because she didn't go out of her house.
She didn't go out of her room later in life. I mean, people would come over and she would
Yeah.
never, she didn't even leave her room.
So, so maybe Emily started out that way and then she became more and more.
I don't think that Edith Wharton is calling for you to be a recluse.
No.
I think she's calling for you to develop hobbies and interests and things that you enjoy doing and be content to do those, whether you're doing them by yourself or if somebody's joining you along to do that with you. That's what Edith is saying.
And I would say a lot of gardeners would ascribe to that theory, as would a lot of writers
Yes.
and
Yes.
these two podcasters, because we're alone a lot
Yeah.
and we don't mind.
Nope.
So, but we don't mind visiting either. We love going places and doing things. So, our flowers, Carol came up with this topic and it's a good one. And so, we're going to each list 3 flowers we're going to grow that are new to us. And the funny part is, we chose a lot of the same and we didn't know that.
Yes. Well, we are highlighting some of the All America Selection seeds for the most part. I've got one that's not
I do too.
that we got. And so let's just dive in. We'll just go back and forth.
Okay, I'll do the first one and then you do the first one. Okay, so I'm going to grow again climbing petunias. I saved a bunch of seed from these old-fashioned petunias.
Please send me some.
And
Please send me some. Please send me some.
if I've got enough, I will. I think I do. And I bought those from Select Seeds just to let people know. I found them really fun. And then I'm also going to do the Shake Raspberry F1 petunia. And I'm going to say ahead of time, although petunias don't love our hottest part of our summer, and every year I get a lot of questions about how do you make them go all summer long. Well, sometimes they don't. And sometimes they look really ratty. And sometimes I replace them. And then sometimes I cut them back and feed them. I will say the climbing petunias were especially heat tolerant and they just wound their way around and I cut them wherever I wanted to. And eventually they did go to seed. I don't know much about the shake petunias, but you're going to talk about them too.
Yes, let me talk about that because that is on my list and I can expand upon what you said. It's a
Okay.
2025 All America Selection Ornamental Winter, and it says available soon. So we apologize in advance to our listeners. We'll give you links. Go look at these things, and then you're like, oh, I would like to grow that too, but then we don't really have a source. But what you're
Because
going
they're
to
brand
learn,
new.
yes. And they describe this one as being like a raspberry shake. It's got some lemon lime coloration in the petals,
Uh huh.
but
Which I'm excited about.
okay, naturally compact.
So it's not a spreading petunia. And I will say in Oklahoma, spreading petunias do better. Okay, keep going.
This petunia will not melt in summer heat, but will
Huh.
provide
We'll
season
see.
long delicious color.
Well, we will see. And you sometimes can find these, but you'll have to search for them online. And also, if there are seeds available yet, they may not be available yet. If there are, AES will have it on their website. They almost always do.
Yeah, they always
Um,
have a where to get. And then they also have some what they call close market comparisons, and they list a couple of other varieties that are similar. So anyway, I'm also going this from seed, and Dee, I'm going to winter sow this one.
I'm just going to sow it indoors in my greenhouse and it'll do fine too. They'll both do fine. You can do it either way. There was something else I wanted to say about petunias. Oh, I did a little reel last week and I found this beautiful picture from my garden last summer that showed the petunias that I was
Right?
growing. And I will try to put that into the newsletter. I will find it again. So my second one
Well, wait a
is,
minute. I've got one
oh,
more
you're
thing to
not
say
done?
about petunias.
Oh, okay.
I still had the best luck with some petunias that were just an old-fashioned pink variety that the greenhouse had for sale. They sold them
Yep.
in flats, and so I just needed to a cheap petunia to bed out. I didn't need those fancy ones that are like $5, $6, $7 a container. So those things bloomed all the way until the end of November. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So that old breeding is really, really good. And that's how I felt about the climbing petunias. They just kept going. They kept
Yes.
going and going and going. There's one more thing I was going to ask you. We grew an AAS petunia last summer, had silver in the title, which I should have written this down, but it just came to me. It was purple and it had some veining. Anyway, I have a picture of that too. And that was another one that did really, really well too.
Yeah, I don't think I grew that one, but maybe I
Silver
did.
vein, something or other. Anyway, okay, can we move on?
Yes, to your flower number 2.
Flower number two is Concert Bell Sunflower, and Carol will have a lot to say about this because she's grown it. I have never grown it. I have beaucoup seeds of it because they have sent it to me 3 years in a row, and I'm going to grow it this time.
You should grow it. Definitely. I grew it last summer, and I will tell you, it just has not one bloom per stalk. It's just got a big head of blooms, all kinds of.
It's a branching one.
Yes, and I'd say they're, I don't know, 6 inches across would be my
Nice.
guess. But I thought they were really lovely, and they sent me another packet, so I'm going to grow them again. And
Uh-huh.
they are definitely a back of the border flower. So if you have a place back of the border, and be sure that they'll turn with the sun, which is always a problem for me because they're facing the fence.
Right.
So anyway, I got to sort that out. But they're you will be very happy. And Concert Bells has been on the market for
Quite
several
a while.
years. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna while you talk about how excited you are to grow this one, I'm gonna look it up real quick and I'm gonna tell you where to get the seeds. Maybe it's
Well,
one
I
of
think
our.
I think it's sunflowers as a general rule are easy to grow if you can get them big enough that creatures don't want to eat them, like rabbits, like hungry rabbits or deer. And I may put these in my lower back garden instead of, what am I saying? I won't have a lower back garden. It's going to be gone. I may put them in the back garden somewhere. I may not. I don't know where I'm going to put them, but I'm going to put them somewhere because I got to protect them from the deer. I have a
Yeah.
big deer problem.
This This was a 2022 winner. And
Okay.
you know what? They still don't have
You
a
can't
seed
find it?
source. They don't have a seed source on here. Oopsie.
Well, okay. All right. So your next one?
So my next one, I'm going to go with the Snapdragon Double Shot Yellow Red Heart. And
Mm-hmm.
I grew their Double Shot Orange 2 years in a row. And that it's an open floret on the Snapdragon, so it's a little bit bigger. And so, did you get Double Shot Yellow Red Heart?
Let me check my list. I think I did. Of
Dee, this one because
yes, no. Yeah, yeah, I did. I did.
so it's yellow and it has a red center.
Mm-hmm.
My personal feeling is that it will go really well with the shake raspberry petunia. That they would
I
grow.
think it will too. I think it'll be really pretty. By the way, you can get that Concert Bell sunflower seed, but it's from a place called Seedway. And you for a package, it's $30.90. That
Dee,
seems ridiculous.
why don't we figure something out? Do you have too many seeds? We could share some maybe. Let's think about that.
We could maybe give some away. That would be really nice of us. I will say this about the Snapdragons last year, going back to the Snapdragons. I grew the orange one. It was gorgeous. I grew the other color we had too from the AAS. They did really well here. They're a good winter sowing plant, don't you think?
Yeah, the double shot Snapdragon and the orange, and I have the orange. They sent me both. I'm going to winter
Me
sow
too.
both of those. You see why I'm running out of space?
I do. And the thing you have to remember about Snapdragons is pinch them off so that they branch out.
Yes.
Because one year I did not do that and that was dumb. Okay, so my next one, my last one, is your bonus.
Yes.
Sweetheart Kisses verbena. This is not like verbena bonariensis or verbena Bampton. This is the spreading type verbena that will hang over pots. And it's a new AAS winner for 2024. And I will use it in my pots and I will probably sow it pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's Verbena tenuis secta, tenui secta.
Yeah,
And it's all different shades of like reds and pinks in the
very pretty.
mix. So I'm going to try this one too. I have never grown this variety of verbena from seed, so this will be a nice experiment.
And then your next one.
Well, my next one is the last one we're going to talk about with seeds, I think. And that is I got a zinnia. It's a Marilandica, Zinnia Marilandica Zydeco, and it's a orange.
Mine says Zydeco Fire. I think yours is too.
Yeah, it's Zydeco Fire, but it's an orange color.
Yeah, it's an orange zinnia.
So I'm going to grow that, and it's like it's in a tube inside here. So it's like the seeds must be really small. So it'll be interesting to try. This one I'm going to probably just direct sow in the garden somewhere. Hope for the
So
best.
what do you know about that type of zinnia?
Well, they advertise it as being more disease resistant, so less likely to get downy mildew or powdery mildew.
Huh, interesting.
And then it's going to grow to about 2 feet tall, so not as big as a lot of those Zinnia elegans that get 3, 4 feet tall. It says it
Right. So
grows
it's a
to about,
shorter one.
yes. And then it's orange, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's orange, never mind. But I'll find a
Oh,
spot
but
in the vegetable garden
orange
because it's also will attract butterflies and bees.
orange zinnias are really pretty.
Yeah.
I grew two different orange ones and they're extremely striking in the garden. It's not a regular orange color, and I don't really know how to describe it. It's a really pretty rich orange, like a fiery sunset.
Yeah, like a fiery sunset. That I guess that's kind of what the picture looks like. Now, since you did my one bonus, we've got another one, Dee, and I don't know what are you going to do? Because I think you got seeds for a Dahlia Black Forest Ruby. It's a 2025 ornamental winner. It has nearly black foliage with
Yeah.
red. And so I have never grown these from seed. And the thing is, they don't actually send instructions for how to sow these. So you kind of like,
No.
I'm just going to guess how I'm going to do this. But it says it flowers from seed. So I may try it just because it's something different. I can put it in a pot out there. So they sent it to me. I'm going to try it. They say it's prolific flowering. It might look really good in the fall with that really dark foliage. So I am going to give that a whirl. And that is
Okay, you do that.
Dahlia Black Forest Ruby. I'm going to try it, Dee.
So I'm going to do my bonus. My bonus is the nasturtium group, which were regional winners. And there's baby gold, baby yellow, and baby red. And I've already sown the seeds for them. So I guess I'm growing those too. And they are shorter, smaller ones. And I'm okay with that. I have the big spreading Bloody Mary. So these will be fun too. In pots,
Yeah.
maybe.
And I didn't get any nasturtium seeds.
I know because these were regional.
Yeah. But I
I
got
bet
some
if you
stuff
asked them, I bet if you reached out to our friend and asked her, they would show up at your house. But that's all. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. I've got plenty of seeds.
Me too. Me too.
Okay. Let's talk about the vegetables. Oh, you have to do the quote first.
Gardening gives me a chance to create on a grand scale. I like being included in such a miracle. Kathy Thompson. Vegetables.
So we both have picked this pick and pop yellow pepper. They sent seeds.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's smaller and you can just like pop it in your mouth, as you said. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's a sweet pepper.
This one I'll start inside.
Yeah, like I'll start them inside in March is when I'll do it. You'll probably do it in beginning of April.
Yeah, I don't like to go too early on these things. Maybe the last week of March or whatever. But
Yeah, I'll do it
again,
mid-March because
many apologies
warmer.
because this is in the category of available soon.
Yeah. And then I chose wildcat pepper, hot pepper, and I said that I hadn't grown this one before, but I think I have. And it was a good pepper and I liked it and I'm growing it again.
That's excellent. So my next one, which was my first one, was this Zenzi tomato, and this is a Midwest winner, and it's a Roma type tomato, and
Yep,
it is supposed to be very a winner, like I said, winner in the Midwest, which is probably why I got it, and I don't know that you did.
I didn't. Uh-uh.
So they say, in addition to be early ripening, now this is curious. It's bushy but indeterminate. So they said, it's easy to harvest from. And I'm like, bushy but
Okay.
indeterminate. I'm thinking maybe I'll put this in a container on the patio just because
Yeah,
I
that
don't
might be
know.
fun.
I just don't
Yeah.
know. So I'm going to try that because, I can grow tomatoes pretty easily. I'll start that inside.
I think a container would be good too because Roma tomatoes tend to get blossom end rot worse than some other varieties
Yes.
of tomatoes. And I think by putting in good fresh potting soil, you'll help with that calcium uptake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll think about that. So that's Zenzei tomato.
Yeah. And then I chose another pepper because I did all three peppers. Red Impact, which you got last year, and it's supposed to be an easier Lamuyo type pepper, which are notoriously hard to grow. And we went into this in great detail last summer about what that type of pepper was. And I'm going to give it a try. I don't know if it'll work or not. I do have really good luck with peppers, though.
Yeah, and I grew a plant that Burpee sent me, and I grew the seeds that All America Selections sent me. So I had two plants, and they did do really well. The thing is about them that I thought was impressive is a lot of times if you leave those peppers on the plant in order to get to their ripe color, they rot on you.
Right.
And Red Impact did that less than others. I'm not going to say that every pepper was perfect, but I got a lot more red peppers than I normally would have.
Good. Cool. So you have another one.
Green lightning squash. This is a summer squash. And
I got it, I think.
when I looked at the picture, it's like, remember cue ball squash, which is the little
I
round
do.
ball? And you know the shape of acorn squash, the winter squash?
Yep.
If the two of them had a baby, and I'm not saying they had a baby, but that's the shape of this thing. It's got a really
Yeah, it's kind of a weird
yeah,
little shape.
like a
It's really kind of
spinning
cute.
top with edges. We'll put a picture of it. But they said it was early and fast in producing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
And I
try this
think,
one.
is it winter type squash?
No, it's a summer
Or
squash.
summer? It's a summer. So hopefully it'll get to you before In our case, the squash bugs get it. All right, you have a bonus round.
So when I was at Menards, the bonus round I have is actually an herb. I
Yeah.
picked up really pretty herb called basil. It's batik, Batik, and it's a
Yep.
Thai basil. I'll show you the picture of it. See how it's got that little purple foliage on the tops and the tips?
Now I have. I was looking at some of that. Yes.
So I picked that up at Menards and I thought, oh, I'm going to grow that basil. And then I thought, how many basils are you growing this year, Carol?
You're growing a bunch.
Well, I got to still sort out some of those seeds. I'm to the point of sorting out all my winter sowing seeds. I won't winter sow these. They're so easy to grow from seed in the spring. So anyway,
So, since you're going to talk about basil, I'll tell you about a new basil I'm going to try this year.
is it
It
Piedmont?
is, nope, it's Thai Towers Lemon.
Oh, you're getting
They've come out with
fancy.
an Everleaf Thai Towers Lemon Basil. So, I'm kind of excited about that. And I'll be honest, I don't remember. It's called Everleaf Lemon. That's what it is. Everleaf Lemon Basil. It's a new variety, and Ball Seed has it. So I'm going to guess Ball Seed. So I don't remember where I bought it from. Maybe Territorial, maybe Pine Tree.
Well, the reason I said Piedmont is because All America Selection has a 2025 winner basil Piedmont, which they say is downy mildew resistant.
Yeah, I think we got that, didn't we?
You know what? I went looking through my seeds because I thought I had gotten it, but I'd not seen it. So I have to go back through. And if I didn't get it, I'll be very disappointed again. But, they can't send you everything.
They can't. And I filed all mine away. And for some reason, I have the paper of my flower seeds, but I don't have the paper of the vegetable seeds. It's in with the files. So
I might have this because it says it's a Great Lakes Heartland winner. So that might have come into my,
it might have.
I'll
It's
see.
worth a try.
It is I'll have to go back through all those seeds. I really got to get my head around the whole thing. That's a project for next week. So that's our vegetable topic. Again, National Garden Bureau All America Selections. We thank them for sending us these seeds. I know some of our listeners who are also garden communicators, they got the seeds too. So if they want to
Sure.
comment and tell us, hey, this is what I'm excited about growing, that would be lovely.
Yeah, it would. You want to do the next quote?
I will. Reading gives us someplace to go when we have to stay where we are. Mason Cooley.
I picked that quote because I can't travel right now. So,
Uh-huh.
and so I thought I remember thinking that when I was a kid. And my grandmother used to say something like that. So, on the bookshelf, you found this book. It's called 10 Tomatoes That Changed the World, A History by William Alexander. And it was a Washington State Book Award finalist. And I did start it. We both did you get yours from the library? I did.
No, I bought mine
You bought it.
I was at Barnes and Noble actually before Christmas, and I was looking, and this title popped out of a shelf at me and smacked me up the side of the head. And so there you go. So this guy, longtime readers of gardening books will remember the $64 tomato, how one man nearly lost his sanity, spent a fortune, and endured an existential crisis in the quest for the perfect garden. That's
Yep,
the same author. So if you like that, he writes with humor, but there's a lot of
he
history in
does.
here. And so I've read like two of the chapters. There's 10 of them.
I've
And
read the first chapter, but the one I want to read is The Miracle of San Marzano. A
uh-huh.
tomato defines a country and its cuisine. Have you read that one yet?
I have not. I was reading.
Because you know how we talked last year about Stanley Tucci and how he went to San Marzano and he saw the San Marzano tomatoes and they can only be grown in San Marzano because they have a special kind of soil. And we talked about terroir
Yes.
and all of that
Yes.
stuff. Remember?
Yes.
Just fascinating. And it's a volcanic soil. And that's when he starts out. Yeah, he starts out talking about the volcano eruption in this chapter. So I
Right.
cannot wait to read that. I'm going to have to recheck it out. This is a good book. I started it and I got a little bogged down in chapter 1 when he got into that deep part of the history. I was
Yeah.
like, okay. So everyone has my permission to go, okay, I know enough about that tomato. I'm now going to move on.
Yes. I think it's a delightful read. I actually skipped to chapter 10, Winter is Coming. And he talks about how suddenly in the wintertime, all our tomatoes are coming from Canada.
Yeah. Isn't
And
that weird?
just talks about how they're just putting acres and acres and acres under glass and they're growing the tomatoes in Canada and truckloads of them cross the border every day and come and end up at my Costco.
Yeah. And most of those are grown indoors and they're specific varieties that ripen really quickly under greenhouse conditions. They are usually fed intravenously, basically.
Hydroponics.
They're,
You're looking for the word
yeah, hydroponics.
hydroponics.
I know, but I thought intravenously was funny.
So I like it. I'm glad I picked it up. It was just an impulse purchase.
And there, he's also going to talk about Heinz ketchup, and I'm sure he'll talk about canning tomatoes, like the Rutgers tomato that was developed specifically for canning. It's a great little book. If you like tomatoes or you know somebody who does like tomatoes, you should buy this book for them, I think.
Yes. And there's also a chapter he tells the whole story of Big Boy, which is like the tomato.
It was the tomato for a long time.
The tomato.
It's
So
not my
anyway,
favorite, but it's a good, I mean, the truth is, any homegrown tomato is a good tomato.
that's right. That's right.
I
And
can't eat tomatoes right now, but I hope to be able to reintroduce them to my food soon. They are really, really high in histamine and also extremely acidic. And so those two things really mess with my mouth issues. All right.
well,
So
wait,
I do have hope, though.
I want to read one last thing.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it says, and talking about the book, it says, a fascinating story complete with heroes, con artists, conquistadors, and no surprise, the mafia. This book is a mouth-watering, informative, and entertaining guide to the food that has captured our hearts for generations. I like it.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, he is a very good writer. He's fun to read. All right. I'll do the next. Oh, do you want to repeat the title?
Sure, I'll just pick up my book here. 10 Tomatoes That Changed the World, A History by William Alexander. I believe it came out in 2023.
Yeah, it's a good book. The hum of the bees is the voice of the garden. Elizabeth Lawrence. So now we're going to talk about dirt, and you found our dirt,
I
which
did,
I've not seen. That's
yes.
crazy.
A news article came across about how they have developed some varieties of peppers and tomatoes that you can direct sow in the garden. And
Okay.
so if you go to the Burpee website and you put in the term garden sown, SOWN, you'll find that they have a line of seeds for peppers and tomatoes that you can sow in the garden. And the packets are basically $8 a packet. But they've got a sweet pepper. They've got, I'll call it a large cherry type tomato called raindrops. They have another sweet pepper called So Sweet, which they call a snacking pepper. And then they have one called Groundswell Hybrid, which is a great big heirloom tomato that you can sow these directly in the ground in the spring.
So I have two thoughts about this.
Do you?
One is, yeah, one is every year there are tomatoes that set seed in my garden and send up baby tomatoes. So obviously they can be grown directly in the
Oh,
garden.
yes, 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 yes.
The issue is that they're a very long season crop. And so it is hard to do that timing so that you could direct sow them and not kill them before they get going.
Right.
And so I assume that these are faster maturing plants than the average tomato plant.
That could be what they say, at least on the two tomatoes, is sow these in your garden in fertile, well-worked soil approximately 1 week before the last possible spring frost. So in my garden, I would sow these in early May.
I would sow them in late April just to be safe.
Yes.
Not the last week of April, but let's say April 15th. I'll just say mid-April. That's when I would sow them. But
And
I don't know why.
it says that
I
for the
don't know
peppers
why.
too, I think. The
So do you
peppers.
think that these are popular or these are being brought to the market because some people think that starting seeds is hard?
That could be, or people think
Because
about,
it is kind of
yeah,
it's intimidating, right?
or they're looking for an alternative because tomato plants they're getting up there in price. And
They are
so
that.
I don't know how many seeds are in a packet of these burpee sown ones. So
Right.
it could be, just, or just something fun to try. I might be tempted to sow this raindrops one. I'm trying to see if I can't tell if it's determinate. It's an indeterminate.
I would think it would be indeterminate.
Yeah, it's indeterminate.
So let me look at, okay, so raindrops. Okay, so it says direct sowing gives you a second chance at seed starting. Okay, so I kind of see how their thinking is on this. What they're saying is you could go ahead and start tomatoes indoors, but this gives you a chance to have a later crop, which some people do that anyway. I
Right.
didn't know that for years. I didn't realize that some people do their first tomatoes and then they do more tomatoes. And they do that so they can have late tomatoes in case they did, say, just a determinate tomato, and they really only have a 3-week harvest. So then they do more. Or your indeterminates poop out because we just have the hottest summer ever on record. I don't know. I mean, you can do it if you want to. I'll have my hands full just doing what I'm doing.
I apparently have my hands full doing what I'm doing too, but I am kind of tempted.
25 seeds is how many is in this
You
packet.
know, I'm going to go back to Menards sometime next week and see, because they sell all burpee seeds. I'm going to see if by chance they have some of these on the seed rack.
Uh-huh.
I
I bet
don't
they
think
don't.
that they do, but anyway, it's tempting.
All the new stuff doesn't tend to get on the seed rack,
Yeah.
but with burpee, but it'll be interesting. That's a really interesting piece of dirt.
There you go. So I'm going to do a quote. We're going to talk about our rabbit holes.
Okie dokie.
Gardening is the work of a lifetime you never finish. Oscar de la Renta. D, that is the truth.
Yeah, for sure. So, rabbit holes. I'll do mine first because it's not too long. I went down a Pinterest rabbit hole yesterday looking about decorating under garden cloches because I have a lot of them. And I thought, oh, those would be pretty on my mantle. And I've almost finished my Valentine display. And you said, Dee, you need a plant under a cloche. And I was like, yeah, well, some plants do okay under them, but a lot don't because they need some airflow and it's not pretty. So most of the plants that you see online that are under cloches are just there to look cute, and then they take the cloche off periodically. Now, I know you guys are thinking, well, terrariums, but terrariums, you pick specific plants for terrariums,
That is true.
and they rain inside themselves, which cloches don't do as well.
Right.
All right, and then I went down a recipe rabbit hole lately because I'm trying to come up with new ways to fix chicken, fish, ostrich, chickpeas, turkey, etc. That sounds like a big wide-ranging food list, but I don't know, I get bored. So, and I did make a really, really good recipe that was chicken thighs, and you roasted these potatoes and you made this great sauce. It was the best thing I ate all week.
Cool. I didn't have much of a rabbit hole. I did read this article about how people should practice the 70% rule. So
Okay.
instead of striving for perfection, if you're 70% there, like on an article or this podcast recording, good enough, hit the enter key. And so it's kind of promoting just get your stuff out there and stop fiddling around and trying to make everything perfect. So I watched a video from a guy in Australia that was really very entertaining about that from about 4 years ago. So that's my new mantra. Am I at 70%? Good enough. Let's go.
Especially for gardening, because you know what? There's a lot you don't have control over.
Really, really,
I
really.
have some clients who are, they want perfection. And I'm like, that's a magazine. That's Pinterest. That's Instagram. There recently on Instagram, there's this one lady, and I can't remember which account it is, but let's say she's one of those cottagecore accounts.
Yeah.
Okay. And her stuff is beautiful, just beautiful, right? But the other day she said, now this is what my house really looks like on any given day. Here are the chickens walking in and pooping on the floor. Here is my husband doing this. Here's where the kids dropped everything. My house does not always look like an Instagram reel. So I'm with you on the 70%.
There you go. So let's do our garden commissions. What are you doing this next week, Dee, besides waiting for the groundhog?
I'm moving the north wind switchgrass next week. I'm going to put it where I dug out these two. It was all that glows and all that glitters. They were arrowhead viburnums, and I just never loved them. They were sample plants that were given to me probably 12 years ago, and they were really boring. And so I yanked those out
Yep.
and I put in the switchgrass. I'm going to put in the switchgrass because I'm moving it from the lower beds, and I'm going to cut back my hellebores. I started, but there's a lot of hellebores in this garden, so I've got to do that, and I need to do it on a chilly day when I could put on all my tick clothes, because where do ticks like to live? In the shade.
In the
Where do
shade.
hellebores like to live?
In the
In the
shade.
shade. So I've got to do that, and I've got to move back the leaves. And then the other thing is I'm still cutting back some roses. I usually start doing it in February. This year I started in January.
Excellent.
Oh, I left off something. I also have a garden coaching client this week. And I just want to say, if you want to get in on garden coaching, start contacting me, because I get really busy and I am still doing them on Zoom, which I personally think is the best way. But if you really want me to come to your house, we will talk about it. There are certain things we have to do.
There you go.
All right. You?
So I said I was going to finish winter sowing, but I think it's rather I'm going to continue winter sowing. I have to make my little labels and figure out, keep adding until I basically have run out of room in there. Decide if I'm going to do a second container. So I've got that going. I'm going to put all my seeds on the spreadsheet so I know what I've got. I need to cut back the hellebore foliage here, and weather permitted about 2 days ago, and I just didn't even cross my mind to go out there because I'm so used to it being cold. And
Right.
today is rainy and wet, so it's probably not going to be today. But anyway, the other thing is my Lego botanical garden project.
Yes, your
I've
beautiful conservatory.
I've done 7 bags, and I've skipped 2 days, and it's like, oh, I got to get back into that. I got to do a bag a day because I want to get it done by the end of February. So I'm going to do that, time permitting.
Cool. And then I thought of one more thing I need to work on.
What's
I need to
that?
cut back the lavender with my shears, my battery operated shears, because it's time. The lavender is up and it's beautiful blue, and I got to cut it back to the wood so that it doesn't get too big and too woody. And then that's the end of that.
There you go. So I don't, other than the hellebore foliage, I'm not going to be cutting anything back. But anyway, that's it, Dee. We want to thank everyone for listening to the Garden Angelus. I hope you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
If you subscribe to our free Substack newsletter, you'll get a link to listen to the podcast a day early and links to the products we discuss. Some are affiliate links, and they help us pay for the podcast.
And if you want to help support us, use our affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we're in a small commission and it costs you nothing.
Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout, or you can make a one-time donation through PayPal.
We want to thank everyone who has done so. It helps us pay for podcast hosting.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the garden gate this week. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.